Hello, I'm Jen. I'm head of gov.uk. I work at the Government Digital Service, which is part of the UK Government's Cabinet Office. I want to talk to you a little bit about the past, a bit more about the present, but mostly about the future of gov.uk. You might know gov.uk as the single website for the UK Government, where you can do things like apply for a passport, get child benefit, or report buried treasure. But I'm going to show you that the gov.uk of the future is not just a website with content and transactional services. It's the focal point for government transformation. It's the place where government can bring together all its knowledge and expertise to serve users around complex problems, like they needed to do for Brexit, which I'll get onto in a bit. We launched gov.uk back in 2012, and this is what we did. We moved nearly 2,000 government sites onto one single domain. We wrote out design principles and set up gov.uk to be based around user needs. We worked in the open, and our code has been used around the world. It's grown quickly and it's been popular. We've had over 16 billion page views since launch, and the site is conservatively estimated to have ongoing savings of £66 million per year, which is about $51 million, from having to host and resource one site rather than hundreds. In a nutshell, gov.uk now works brilliantly if a user knows what it is they need or want to do with government, like renew a passport. And the next big challenge is to better help users with the things they didn't realise they need to do, or to help them get to the next stage of their journey. That might be things like sustaining a business in the early years of trading, buying a house or having a child. These are not discrete, singular transactions, but processes. Gov.uk is good at transactions, but not complex interactions, yet. And Brexit shone a spotlight on the issue. Communicating and delivering Brexit is, by any measure, one of the biggest changes that the UK government has faced in generations. It's a truly cross-government issue and one that gov.uk is in a prime position to help with. But in order to support users around issues like Brexit, we need to change the way that gov.uk and digital government work. This isn't about changing the front end of the website or changing the way content fits together. This is fundamentally about changing the structures and the mindset of digital government. It means things like working together as one government on priority issues, regardless of departmental or professional boundaries. It means proactively supporting users and providing information and services according to the user's mental model and their behaviours. And it also means being clear on what good looks like and collecting the right data to validate, or not, the improvements that are being made. And while I'm sure you're all familiar with Brexit, or Britain leaving the European Union to give it its full title, it's worth reiterating its huge impact on the UK government. It means completely redrawing our relationship with our nearest neighbours, and it impacts on huge swathes of foreign and domestic policy, covering things like travelling across borders, importing and exporting, or employing people. And about the only member of the UK government who's remained relaxed throughout the changes is Number 10's Larry the Cat. So on gov.uk, our period of intense delivery began in the run-up to December 2018, when the first public information campaign was launched to help people understand Brexit. As government's main communications and interactions channel, there was a lot of focus on our ability to communicate what Brexit meant for people, so that they could prepare. We have a devolved publishing model on gov.uk with services provided by independent departments. This means that while gov.uk appears as one website, it's managed by teams across government and the UK. That means the ask was a big one, especially where there was a need to achieve consensus on definitions for processes or events across departments first. It became clear to me that we needed to be able to clearly communicate the gov.uk proposition. So, if we were going to be on the hook for a massive cross-government programme of work, we needed to say what we would need in order to deliver that. And in my mind, there were 4 things that we needed in particular. The first was, until December 2018, gov.uk hosted transactional services, guidance and policy information only. Going forward, we needed to support a broader range of content types, like advisory material or campaign material, to make sure that the user journeys were joined up and people could successfully navigate a complex topic. Secondly, we needed a better understanding of how users interacted with government across the whole online brand. My team runs the central publishing platform, but as I just mentioned, we have a devolved publishing model. So despite being the head of gov.uk, I can't actually tell you yet whether we're providing the best experience possible for users, because I can't see what's happening in the service domains. I have no idea what services are completed in tandem to others, or what the top failure points are under the brand, because I can't see a complete funnel analysis of user journeys. Thirdly, it was clear that the more complex the topic, the more users were frustrated by seeing information that wasn't relevant to them. So we needed to start exploring how we could give users a more tailored interaction. We needed to think about what personalisation might mean in a gov.uk context. And lastly, not that we needed much convincing here, but we had to work on whole problems, topics or life events, and we needed the authority to convene across government in this way. These are big changes to what gov.uk did before, and each of these things were as much about cultural change as it was about what we delivered. So the size of the challenge and the necessary changes to gov.uk proposition had become clear, and then things started to move pretty rapidly. By early 2019, we were preparing for our first potential no-deal Brexit date of March the 29th. We were iterating gov.uk accordingly and beginning the work to both gain buy-in for our revised proposition and beginning the work on the programme to test, explore and consider this change in approach further. Cut to July 29 and Boris Johnson becomes Prime Minister and the administration changes. Early on, we were involved in conversations about how we would help users prepare for exiting the European Union come what may. I knew this was my chance to land some key points. Firstly, trust in gov.uk is paramount. We've built this up and we don't want to lose it. When users get to gov.uk, they must know it's factual, reliable information. We wanted the campaign landing page to be built on gov.uk. Secondly, we wanted to design to help users in the round, not asking them to self-select based on whether they were a business or an EU national or something else. And thirdly, the new administration would quickly need to understand the underlying infrastructure that supports gov.uk if they were going to be clear on the limits of the possible. So with those points landed, amongst the rest, we were then clear to crack on with a new way of helping users prepare for Brexit. And the main manifestation of this work was what we've called the Brexit checker. While over 75% of our traffic comes from search engines direct to a piece of information on gov.uk, we also needed to provide something that addressed users' professional and personal concerns and gave them an understanding of how they should prepare. We therefore needed to work out the logic and consequences of Brexit and strike the right balance between the number of questions to ask and the likely dropout rate from question fatigue. And while a Q&A tool like this isn't radical in and of itself, what was particularly significant was that this was the first time at scale that gov.uk had been able to provide a semi-personalised service on a whole topic. And users liked it. It uses no personally identifiable information, but knows enough to help the user narrow down on what's relevant to them with an enormous subject area. In the immediate days after it launched, we saw gov.uk traffic increase by around 20%. We also saw that all views of Brexit information and services on gov.uk, about half was going through the checker and/or the campaign landing page. The Brexit checker has been iterated constantly since going live, based on learnings we had about where it was working and failing, as well as reflecting the state of progress in the Brexit process. We now call it the transition checker. So the transition checker was perhaps the most visible delivery during that period, but alongside that we were doing intense work on other things to support better outcomes. We were working hard on making sure that our information would be available wherever the user looked for it, so ensuring that search engines provided the most relevant information, perhaps even negating the need to actually visit gov.uk itself. We were optimising for voice. We were delivering step-by-step patterns on some of the most complex Brexit-related processes, like importing goods. And of course, we'd brought the campaign landing page back into gov.uk properly. This was all realising the vision we'd set out at the start of 2019 at pace. We were showing that gov.uk could be these things. It could be personalised, giving users the option to interact with a more curated product that meets and anticipates their needs and also helps to do tasks for them. It could also be low friction, and that means joining up complex information and services beneath the surface, making it easier for users to get things right from the start. And it could also be data informed. Effectively using performance data to have better insights across government allowed us to identify correlations and start to spot things before they go wrong. So by December 2020, we'd basically done as much as we could with some substantial changes to the gov.uk model. The constraints we faced were those of the wider government operating model and state of digital and data infrastructure. Now we're looking at how we might evolve that too, so that we can do even more to realise our ambition for how gov.uk should provide digital public service. So this gives you an idea of the current simplified architecture that sits below the gov.uk brand. First, think about departmental silos. Each department builds their services to connect under the gov.uk brand. And then think about that in data terms. We have 24 ministerial departments, each of which have their own data sets, which in many cases are not easily shareable with other departments, even if they relate to something relatively simple and with a common use, like a company's tax record. Now extend that thought to the silos within departments. Large departments like the Department for Work and Pensions, or HMRC for example, hold up to hundreds of different data sets for the different services and policy areas they run. Now what you're left with is a picture of fragmented data sets and systems across government. So we're starting to think of a new way of operating. And this is our thinking on the future state of gov.uk. We've started to think about this in a new programme of work. And we think something like this is the kind of architecture we need to move towards. Obviously, this isn't just a gov.uk decision, and this is heavily simplified. But with this kind of model, we have the opportunity to help government create better ways of sharing the data from here in a secure and privacy-centric way. And we can continually improve it and bolster it with the insights data we get from how services are performing on gov.uk, and with our understanding of how users are interacting with and moving across gov.uk. All of these different types of data handled by government, serve analytics, qualitative research, or data sets held by governments can come together here on gov.uk so that we can drive insights, trends, personalisation, automation, and build the government of the future. Our ambition is to serve users based on the way they want to interact with government. What this points to is a need to provide consent-based public service across a spectrum of needs where some users actively want their data used in order to get a proactive service, and some don't. This all relies on government thinking at scale about its data architecture and ensuring the quality is good, and that it's available on standardised terms for all of government to use. Those of you who know how the UK works, and our approach to identity assurance, for example, will know that our approach is a decentralised one. We're not looking to build a single database or an all-seeing eye. Not only is this too big a project to even think about, it's not what our users want, as UK votes have consistently rejected things like ID cards. What we're doing is building connections between the data to improve interoperability and exchange, while keeping security, user privacy and consent at the heart of everything we do. And we're using all of this data and all of these interactions to drive improved outcomes for users. Because this is what we're in the business of, delivering outcomes, not transactions. Not just making it as easy as possible to get the things they need from government, but ensuring we reduce failure demand and ensuring that policies can be effectively implemented for the government of the day. That means we need to keep pace with rising user expectations and changes in technology, which means constant investment in our digital and data capability. Which is to say, the job here is to show that digital government is really just government. Thanks.